Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another Planetarium show. My name is Jessica. I'm the director of Planetarium and will be your tour guide to the astronomical events coming up this month. I see we already have a question about one of those, which I will talk about. Um, so, yeah, let's just dive into it. As I get everything set up, if you have any questions throughout the show, feel free to leave them down in the comments. I am currently by myself right now, which means it may take me a little bit longer to see those comments and answer them. So just have a little patience with me, but I will get those answered. So since we're at the beginning of the month, it is our monthly What's Up show, and as most of them go, we're going to start off talking about the moon. So we'll start with the moon phases. We started this month, November 1st, with the first quarter. Full moon will happen about a week after that on November 8th. Third quarter on the 16th, a new moon on the 23rd, and then we actually do have a first quarter again on November 30th, but I didn't have room on the slide. But here are your moon phases if you're interested in keeping up with those. We've also got when they rise and set, you can see that they are up at different times of the day and night, because that just is determined by where the moon is in its orbit around the Earth. Now, we do have a special event with the moon this month. On November 8th, the day of our full moon, we are going to have a total lunar eclipse. So a lunar eclipse can only happen at full moon. It's when the moon is directly behind the Earth and the Sun, so that it falls into the Earth's shadow. Now, this doesn't happen every full moon. Um, First quarter, yeah. So lunar eclipses don't happen every full moon because the moon's orbit is tilted by about 5 degrees. So most full moons, the moon falls either above or below the Earth's shadow. It's only about twice a year that it actually perfectly falls in line with the Earth's shadow and we get a lunar eclipse. Now, we are going to get a total lunar eclipse, which means that the moon is going to pass fully into the part of Earth's shadow called the umbra. Now, this is going to be an event that takes place over several hours in the early morning of November 8th. It will start off with the moon passing into the Earth's penumbra. This is the penumbral eclipse. And honestly, you're probably not going to tell a major difference at this point. Because the penumbra is only partial shadow, you still have some direct sunlight hitting the moon. It will dim slightly, but unless you're really looking for it, you're not going to notice it. What you're really going to notice is when the moon starts to pass into the umbra. That's when it's going to start looking like the moon's having a bite taken out of it. We're going to start seeing more and more of the moon get darker as it passes into the umbra. Now, totality happens when the moon is entirely in the Earth's umbra. Now, you would think that at this point the moon should go completely dark and should disappear from our sky, but that's actually not what happens. During totality, the moon gets this bright reddish coppery orange red color. That's why full moon or total eclipses are sometimes called the blood moon because of that blood color, that orange red color. And this happens because Earth has an atmosphere. The sun's light, as it passes through the Earth's atmosphere, gets bent slightly. And the red light gets bent just the right amount that it ends up falling on the moon. So basically, the Earth's atmosphere acts like a lens that focuses red light onto the moon when it's in the Earth's umbra. And since red light is hitting the moon, we see it glow red. If we didn't have an atmosphere, then we would have a nice dark total eclipse. So the moon's going to spend for this eclipse about 86 minutes in totality before it starts moving out, and then you'll see the whole process in reverse. So it's going to look kind of like this. where again, when it passes into the umbra is when you start really seeing it darken, and then we get that beautiful coppery red color when it's in totality. Just a quick note, these times are in UTC. Um, so you'd have to do conversions for your time zone, but I'm going to give you some help with that in just a minute. So who's going to be able to see this eclipse? Well, the US, North America, is going to be able to see it, although only the kind of western half is going to be able to see the entire lunar eclipse. The bulk of the US, the moon will set before the eclipse is fully over, but everyone will get to at least see some of it. Now for us here in Duluth, this is the timings that we have. So the times you're going to want to know about are 3:09 a.m. is when the moon begins to pass into the umbra. That's the start of the partial eclipse phase. That's when you're really going to notice the moon starting to get dark. And then totality begins at 4:16 a.m. and lasts until 5:41 a.m. All of these are in Central Time. If you'd like to know when things are going to happen for your location, I have a link in the video description to timeanddate.com. If you go there and then you put in your location, it will give you these timings for your location. The timings should be the same, so like if you're on the East Coast, you would just convert this to Eastern time. It's just when it sets for you, maybe a little bit different. So you can see here in Duluth, we will see the entire total eclipse phase, and it will set once it's back in the partial phase. Now, since this is happening at 4 o'clock in the morning, we are not going to do any public observing for this. But please do, if you are interested, get up, go out, take a look. If you take any fun pictures or anything, let us know. Tag us in them. We'd love to see them. All right, moving on now, we are going to take a look at what the planets are doing. And we actually are not going to have any planets in our morning sky anymore. Both Mercury and Venus have pretty much left our morning sky, so all of our planet viewing is going to be after sunset. So right at sunset, we have Jupiter and Saturn still up prominent in the night sky. Excuse me, they are there right after the sun goes down. Jupiter is incredibly bright. It's probably one of the first points of light that you see hovering over the southeast once the sun sets. They will be visible all month after sunset until about midnight, Jupiter a little bit after. Saturn is starting to get lower and lower in the west, so it's not out all night, but it is out right after sunset. Accompanying Jupiter and Saturn up as soon as it gets dark are Uranus and Neptune. Now, in general, both of those, you have to have a telescope to be able to see them. They're too far away and too dim. But Uranus, you might actually have a chance to see. On November 9th, Uranus reaches opposition. What opposition means, so here is a planet at opposition. That's when it's directly opposite the sun from the Earth. This also constitutes the time when we are closest to the planet, so it looks the biggest and brightest in our sky. And this year at opposition, Uranus should be just visible to the naked eye if you're able to get out to a super dark location. So if you want to try and see it, November 9th, or really November in general, is the time to try. Otherwise, you can always look at it through a pair of binoculars or a telescope. What you're going to see is a small disk that has a faint kind of blue-green color to it, and that goes for Neptune as well. Now, a little bit later into the night, Mars joins us, and it will be rising earlier and earlier as we go through the month. And so Mars will be there in our sky all month as well. And then right at the end of the month, we get Mercury and Venus joining us in our evening sky. They are just starting to peek out right after sunset over in the southwest. We'll be able to see them much better next month. So they are gone for a little bit as they are swinging around their orbits, going around the sun, and are just starting to come back in our viewing at the end of the month. All right, we have actually 3 meteor showers to talk about for this month. So meteor showers are what happens when Earth passes through the debris left behind by comets. Comets are basically dirty snowballs, and as they orbit the sun, as the ices evaporate, they can leave behind dust, sand grains, things like that trail along the comet's orbit. And each time Earth passes through that, these little tiny grains fall through the atmosphere and they heat up and they glow for a short period of time. And we see them as these bright streaks of light, which we call meteors or shooting stars. So this is why meteor showers are annual events, because we go through the comet's orbit at roughly the same time every year. So first up are the northern and southern torrids. The southern torrids generally runs from September 28th to December 2nd, and this year it is peaking on November 5th. Now for us here in the US, that peak actually happens in the afternoon. So ideally, you're going to want to try and look for these meteors either early in the morning of November 5th or after sunset that night. Although I would suggest going in the dawn before the sun comes up on November 5th, because the moon will be out of the way by that point. The northern torrids are going to happen a little bit later. They generally run from October 20th to December 10th and are peaking in November 12th. Again, for us here in the US, that peak is happening in the afternoon. So you'd want to go early morning on the 12th or after sunset that evening. Now, both of these meteor showers are attributed to the same comet, Comet 2P, and that's why they are right next to each other. These are moderate meteor showers. At peak, you're looking at about 5 meteors per hour, but the debris in this comet trail tends to be a little bit larger than average, which can create really bright, colorful meteors, which we call fireballs. So while they're few, you can have some really bright, exciting ones. If you want to catch one of these, again, I would recommend the southern torrids in the early mornings of November 5th. Unfortunately, the northern torrids, we're going to have the moon to deal with the entire time, and so that will decrease the number of meteors that you would be able to see. Now, our third meteor shower that I want to tell you about this month is the Leonids. The Leonids run from November 6th to the 30th, and they are peaking on the 17th. They are going to peak, I believe, that evening. So the night of November 17th is when you're going to want to go out to try to see them. It's going to be better a little bit later into the night, even into the early morning of November 18th, because that's when the origin of the meteors is going to be highest in the sky. So they're going to be easier to see. This is a much more active meteor shower than the torrids. At peak, you get up to about 15 meteors per hour, although unfortunately we are going to have the moon to deal with, and that will reduce the number of meteors that you will be able to see. So yeah, quite a few meteor showers. You may have also noticed in the images that there were also like the Andromedids and the Alpha Monocidid. Can't ever remember how to say that. I didn't bring those up because those are really minor meteor showers that produce just a couple of meteors per hour. Although if you're interested, you can always look up information on those as well. But 3 that could be worth going out are the northern and southern torrids and the Leonids. All right, last up, let's take a look at what the International Space Station is doing. So for us here in Duluth, we have quite a few chances to see the International Space Station in the month of November. All of this information I got from this website here in the bottom. It's heavens-above.com. I also have it linked in the video description. You can go there, put your location, and it will tell you the same information for where you are at. A couple of things you want to keep in mind when checking for a good time to see the International Space Station is the date and time, because obviously that will determine when you need to go out. You can see here some passes are happening in the early morning, some are happening in the evening after sunset. The other thing you're going to want to look at is the brightness. So this is given in magnitudes, which is a bit of a backward scale. The smaller the number, the brighter it is. So to see a really bright, obvious passover, you're going to want a small number. So we have lots of chances here in Duluth in November to see the International Space Station. If you find one in particular that you want to check out, you can click the date and it will take you to another page that has more information. In particular, it has this handy map of the sky to show you exactly where the space station is going to fly. And it will also give you more information on the exact timings of the event. Now, keep in mind when you see the space station, it's not going to look, it's going to just look like a point of light. But what you're going to see is it's going to move pretty fast, and it will gradually get brighter for a little bit and then slowly dim back down as it moves across the sky. In general, if you see a moving point of light and it's moving and not blinking, it's probably a satellite. If it's moving and blinking, then it's a plane. And there are quite a few satellites that you can see in our night sky, not just the International Space Station. In fact, any given night, if you go out in a dark location and look for even just half an hour, you will probably spot at least one. They are very common once you have dark enough skies. All right, with that, let's wrap up with what we're doing at the Planetarium for this week. So our in-person shows Friday are Journey Through the Solar System, and then Saturday we are starting our new set of Saturday shows. Saturday at 2 p.m. is our family show, which is Polaris, the Space Submarine, and the Mystery of the Polar Night. It's a long name, but it's an adorable show, and I'll show you a trailer for it in just a second. And then in the evening at 7 p.m. on Saturdays, we will be showing From Earth to the Universe. And then you can always join us back here next week for our November Constellation show. Now let's take a look at the trailers for our 2 Saturday shows.
I adore nighttime. I could spend hours and hours just watching the stars.
Well, you're gonna be happy. Our polar night has just begun. It's gonna last 6 months.
Oh, it's like where I live at the South Pole.
But why does the night last several months? Everywhere else, it only lasts several hours. It's not fair. Well, then why don't we try and think like scientists?
Sure, we can draw up hypotheses.
There you go. All's ready. We can begin our observation.
Wow! Vladimir, you're a surprising bear. We need to view the Earth from above to see what's going on down here.
I know a place on the other side of the iceberg that will supply us all the material we need.
It's amazing.
Can we see our house?
Hooray! 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 Watch
the best day of my life.
Let's just hope that it's not the last one.
So that's Polaris. It's a super cute show about James and Vladimir trying to understand why the poles of Earth experience 6 months of day and 6 months of night, and they go on a really fun adventure to do so. It's a great show for kids. And then this is our 7 p.m. evening show from Earth to the Universe, which I have to say is one of my favorite shows.
The night sky, both beautiful and mysterious. The subject of campfire stories, ancient myths and awe for as long as there have been people. Today, scientists have huge telescopes to study the universe and discover its secrets. Step by step, we have been displaced from the center of the world and placed as exiles on the edge of a vast and inhospitable universe. We have reached out into space, leaving the bonds of gravity behind, and opened a new era of exploration.
So it's a really great show that really explores all of the cool things that, or not all, but a lot of the cool things that we find in our universe. And it has some stunning images that go along with it. So highly recommend if you're going to be in the Duluth area. All right. Well, that brings me to the end of our show. If there are any questions, go ahead and leave them down in the comments. In the meantime, we have one other thing that we need to do today. So we had our annual Halloween event over the weekend. It was a fantastic time, and we ran a raffle for some amazing prizes. And I figured, why not pull our raffle winners tonight on stream? So we don't want to show people's information, but we've got all of our raffle tickets in here and give them a good mix. Oops, some fell out. Let's put those back in. All right, so our first place winner, which is winning the awesome Lego set, is Neil Anderson, and we will contact you in a little bit. So that is our first place. Let's see, our second place, which is getting a very cool at-home planetarium projector. All right. So our second place winner is, and I apologize if I mispronounce the name, but it's Siobhan Shom. We will contact you. And our third place, which is the Build Your Own Volcano set, is Amelia Johnson. There we go. There are our 3 winners. Congratulations, and we will be contacting each of you probably tomorrow. So yeah, there we go. All right, I see we have a question. Will you have advice for Santa Claus about what to get your young scientists and what to avoid sometime soon? Yes, absolutely. Um, I know this time of year I always like to do our telescope show to kind of tell you what to look for and what to avoid. In that, we can also talk about some other great ideas for our budding young astronomers. And maybe I'll actually be able to put together like a fun Christmas list this year. I know we got really busy last year and I wasn't able to pull it all together, but I will try very hard this year. All right, well, I think that is going to bring us to the end of our show. Thank you everyone so much for joining us. Again, if you're in the Duluth area, come see us at one of our Friday or Saturday shows. Otherwise, we are streaming on Wednesdays here. We are going to be taking a couple of breaks here at the end of the year. We'll be taking the week of Thanksgiving off, and we'll also be taking the last 2 weeks of December off for the holidays. But except for then, we'll be running our regular schedule, and then of course we'll be right back in the new year. But until then, enjoy the rest of your week, and hopefully we'll see you in the future. So bye everyone.